Am I on your way?
No.
Okay. Okay. So today's topic is Ubudiyah. We've been talking from the beginning about reading in the name of God, reading the signs, Iqra, which was the first revelation, the meaning of ayat, which is the word that denotes the units of the Qur'an, as well as all events and being occurring in the world. Inshallah. And so we've been going through many fundamental topics, themes that run in the Qur'an, and that makes it easier for us to see the connection between all these concepts. And the easier it becomes, the easier it is for us to read the Qur'an and understand it better and apply it into our lives, inshallah. So first, when we take a look at the Qur'an, we see that the one main focus among all prophets is that they all called people to worship God. So we see here, it says, we sent a messenger to every community saying, worship God and shun false gods. We will keep this in mind. We will see why are we asked to worship God, and then we are also asked to not worship false gods. In the next one, we say every time we sent one of their own as a messenger, worship God, you have no other God than Him, will you not be mindful of Him? It's saying you have no other God than Him. It means it's not as obvious as we may think. It seems like, of course, there is one God. Then why is God repeatedly saying, your God is one, so worship Him alone. Do not worship anything else. We also sent Ibrahim alayhi salam. He said to his people, worship God and be mindful of Him. That is better for you if only you knew. And there is the people of Ad, the people of Thamud. There are many other prophets mentioned by name in the Qur'an or without name, and they all call Ya qawmi ibudullah. O my people, worship God only. We have also Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, peace be upon him, who says, God is my Rabb, my sustainer, the one who takes care of my need, as well as your Rabb, your Lord, so worship Him. Do not worship anything else. With Isa alayhi salam, there is a particular, this emphasis on He is my Rabb and your Rabb, because we know that He's been deified Himself. So there is this nice emphasis that He's saying, He is my Rabb as well. God is my sustainer as well as yours, so worship Him alone. And this is a straight path. So straight path is defined in the Qur'an in many ways. We also know who are the people who are blessed on the straight path, like in Surah An-Nisa, Surah 4. So worshiping God alone as our sole only Rabb is following the straight path. And in the next ayah, we're told, such is God, your sustainer, your Rabb. I'm keeping the word Rabb because it's much more than Lord, much more than sustainer. There is no God except Him. There is no deity, nothing worth worshipping. The word Allah, and here Ilah is something that is worth worshipping. So he's saying there is nothing worth worshipping except Him. Why? Because He is the creator of all things, so worship Him, for it is He who has everything in his care. He is the one in charge and the only one in charge. This concept is easy and not easy. Easy to comprehend intellectually, but to internalize and to digest and to feel and live and experience the implication of this attributes of God, this quality of God, it takes time and it takes effort and intention. And to the extent that we truly understand that God is in charge of everything, He takes care of everything, to that extent, if we choose to surrender, we will be able to surrender in peace, inshallah. So far, God is the only one worth worshipping. And why? Because He is the creator of everything. He is the sustainer of everything. Nothing else has the power to sustain anything. This is a theme that runs in the Qur'an. You will find it everywhere. So who is our Rabb? I'm taking, of course, only short passages because we don't have the time to go over all of them. But typically in the Qur'an, whenever God is mentioned, right after we are told God who, and then describe who God is. So here in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 21, we are told, O people, Ya ayyuhan nas, everyone, not only believers, worship your Rabb. The Rabb is the one who takes care, not only creates you, but He is right here and now taking care of all your needs. Who has created you and those before you so that you might be mindful of Him. Who spreads out the earth for you. We need to look around us and check, is it true? And build the sky, who sent water down from the sky, and with that water, He produced things for your sustenance. Do not, knowing this, set up rivals to God. The next is, why should I not worship the one who has brought me into being? All these things we take them for granted, but really, really, what does it mean? Someone is bringing me into being. Not only He has brought me into being when I was born in this world, He is bringing me into being right now. All these things are truths and realities that we cannot comprehend only intellectually. Intellectually, okay, we get it, but we can talk about fruits, for instance, whatever fruit you like, dates, there were dates around here. I can talk about dates, show you pictures about dates, but it is not the same as seeing the date, taking the date, feeling the softness, and then eating it and enjoying it. And that experience is totally different than talking about dates. So talking about God creating me, bringing me into being, sending the water, the rain from the sky, and actually experiencing that reality are totally different. And we need the second in order to truly understand the text. So the text here is an ayah, and we talked about ayah. Ayah is something, a signpost, something that is indicating something beyond it. So when we are coming here, there are signposts down there, and it says Cultural Center. Just because I read Cultural Center, and I have an idea that must be a building, and there must be some cultural activities in this building, and I say, I know. Yeah, but you don't know this Cultural Center. You didn't get into the building. You didn't go around. You didn't feel how it feels. You didn't watch the beautiful ties around, all the beautiful decorations on the wall. You didn't see the people in it. You didn't see what they are doing. So you can't say, I've seen, I know the cultural center, I know. You've seen only the signpost. This ayah is a signpost. What it is pointing to is something that I need to go and enter and experience. And for this, I need to learn how to reflect and contemplate through the guidance of the Qur'an, and this is what we've been doing all these months. So once we learn to reflect step by step, then we will be inspired with the meanings of this ayah. Your Rabb is God who has created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. It means it can't be something else. And we talked about this because the creator of a single thing, however tiny it is, can only be the creator of everything. This we've been repeating again and again, because they all exist in interconnection. You cannot have one without the others, without the rest. I cannot have a flower without the tree, and the tree without the earth, and the earth without the seasons, and the seasons without the revolution of the earth around the sun, and therefore without the sun and the galaxy and everything else. They are all interconnected. So this is God, your Rabb, so worship him. How can you not take heed? أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. And in the next ayah, we told he is Rabb of the heavens and the earth and everything that is in between. So worship him and remain steadfast in worshiping him. It's not worship him one day and then go and do something else. Be steadfast in worshiping him, always. Do you know of anyone equal to him? Anyone who is worth worshiping and adoring? And this is also a theme that is repeated, and did we do gratitude this time? I think we did. So gratitude is about thanks, giving thanks to God. It's everywhere in the Qur'an because it's the gist, the core of worship is thankfulness, gratitude to God. So he says, "O you who believe, eat the good things we have provided for you." So when I'm eating what he has provided for me. And be grateful to God if it is him that you worship. So when we're eating, often, even though we are taught to say Bismillah, why are we taught to say Bismillah? We talked a lot about Bismillah. We had a whole series about, a whole session about that. Bismillah, in the name of God, that is a reminder. A reminder assumes some knowledge. We know something and we forget. But when we say Bismillah, it reminds us that I am now before this sacred ni'mah, these sacred blessings. Why is it sacred? Because only the maker and creator and provider of all things can create what is the food in my plate. However small or humble it looks, actually it is the fruit of a power that encompasses everything. Only absolute power can create this thing. So already when I remember that and when I have done the work of reflecting and reading the signs in the name of God, and I become familiar with the beautiful names of God, then already I'm at awe. However humble my food is, I am at awe. This is a miracle that I am now facing. So when I say Bismillah, it reminds me of that. And then I put the food in my mouth, and my mouth starts working, and the body starts digesting, and I have no idea how it's doing it. And that's miracle within miracle within miracle. And I am just watching and witnessing. That is shahada. Shahada is extremely important. You have to perform the shahada to be a Muslim. Shahada has many degrees like everything else, but then I am now witnessing, observing, and experiencing the miracle of eating and digesting. How this food that grows out there knows my body and fits the need of my body. The more you reflect about it, the more the intellect cannot fathom this, cannot comprehend. It's only the heart that feels the awe and the majesty, and we are filled with thanks and praise for the Creator. And then it says, if it is He whom you worship, and that's worshiping God. And the next one says, no, worship God alone and be one of those who are grateful to Him. So, as I said from the beginning, all this makes sense, right? It makes sense. It's easy to understand. Yet, again and again, worship God. Do not worship false God. God is your Rabb. He creates everything. Therefore, do not make up rivals to Him. He is the only one who creates. Nothing else can create. Everything is being created. Again and again, we are warned against false God, against worshiping other things. False God means there isn't something that is a false God out there. It is my relationship with something that makes it into a false God. If I view something, I perceive something as as a source of benefits, for instance, then I am grateful to it. Then, without realizing, I am making it into a small God, but this is a false God because nothing can truly, from itself, benefit me. But we may say, but like without water we'll die. True. So does it mean that water is the source of life and benefits? No. Allah made it easy for us. The moment we question, as we are taught in the Qur'an, we realize that truly, look at this, He made water something very simple, mindless, without intelligence, without power, without any qualities required to give life or create anything. It doesn't have life itself, it is lifeless, and yet it is used and employed in giving life to all kinds of vegetation and animals. And imagine this water, this molecule of water, going into the body of human beings, the body of all kinds of animals, of insects, of plants, and it's working perfectly, never making any mistake. Is this possible? Is it possible that water knows and is acting knowingly? Impossible. It should be, if it's doing it itself, it should have intelligence and knowledge of everything and power and control over everything, because it enters and cooperates with everything else. Clearly, someone who knows everything and who has control over everything is using a lifeless substance to give life. So the water is not created there to be an obstacle for us to see the names of God. It is a screen reflecting, it is a mirror reflecting the beautiful names of God. Because it is lifeless, clearly a giver of life, a source of life is operating through this water, for instance. So it says, how can you worship instead of God what can neither benefit nor harm you? This is repeated a lot in the Qur'an. Look around you, whatever our heart is attached to. We're afraid of losing something, or we love having it. And our love and fear is horizontal. We're not even aware of it, that's why. The issue is that you don't have to consciously worship other things. When we are not consciously worshiping God, we are worshiping other things. Why? Because we are created as worshipers. Everyone is worshiping all the time. Why? Because we are created with needs. We have so many needs, right? Most of the time we don't think of our needs because we take them for granted. But if something happens to the air right now, we would be staying inside and wondering if the air will be enough for how many days, if there is no air, breathable air outside. Or if suddenly there is no water, we would panic. We have so many needs, physical and non-physical, and lo and behold, at the same time, we are totally powerless. We are totally, nothing is under our control. Even the things that we think are our control are given to our control. We know when we pause and reflect and contemplate that they are not truly under my control. Because I think I can move things around. What if my hand stops moving? I cannot make it move. If my eyes stop seeing, unless it is within the sunnah of creation that there is a healing. But if I, for instance, I can drop dead now, I have no control over my life. Clearly, it is being given to me right here and now. So, when we are not consciously worshiping God, which means that we are consciously getting to know God, because we cannot worship what we can't know, what we don't know. And this knowing is knowing Him through His creation, as we are guided in the Qur'an how to read the signs in the creation. So it's not only intellectual, we have to actually go and do the work and live it, and witness, live the Shahada, perform the Shahada consciously. Then we are filled with the awe and the appreciation, the praise for God. We will be consciously worshiping God. When we are not doing that, by default, without realizing, our heart is filled with horizontal attachments. And it feels like I need the job because I need the money, or I need the fulfillment, I need this, I need that, without realizing. And all our hearts and our love and our praise will go to all kinds of different things, because we see them as source of provision, source of safety, source of all the things we need in our life. So he says, those they worship beside God have no power to provide anything for them from the heavens or the earth. They can do nothing. Say, I'm forbidden to worship those you call on beside God. Say, I will not follow your vain desires, for if I did, I would stray away and cease to be rightly guided. If I'm not consciously following divine guidance, what does it mean? What am I doing? I'm going astray. Maybe from time to time I may happen to go on the right, but it won't last long on the right path. Shame on you and on the things you worship instead of God. Have you no sense? This is repeated in the Qur'an. Because really, when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. Yet, in practice, that's exactly what we do, because we do not think about it. That's why pausing, reflecting, as we are taught in the Qur'an, contemplating is so important. And it is repeated in the Qur'an and again and again. Reflect, pause, contemplate. You and what you worship instead of God will be the fuel for hell. Because it takes you away from what we need. The source of all what we need is only with God. Everything is with Him. And if we're looking for anything, any fulfillment, any joy, anything we want to achieve in this worldly life, away from God, then we're just deceiving ourselves. It won't lead anywhere. And it's saying that will be your hell, because can you imagine if right when I'm dying or after I die, I realize that I wasted all my life for something that was not worth, because I did not make the connection with the true source. That itself is hell in itself. So worshiping God is seeking help from God. So that is why during the salat, and the salat we are doing it minimum 5 times a day, and it is called Imad ad-Din, like it's the pillar of the deen, this way of life. It's the pillar because it is anchoring us. Whenever we may start being deluded or get distracted, it brings it back to the straight path. We remember again and again in each prayer. And in each prayer, we have to at least recite the Surah Al-Fatiha. And in Surah Al-Fatiha, we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, only you we worship, and it is you alone that we worship, and it is you alone that we ask help from. And so the worship comes first because that's the goal. The goal is to worship God. And then comes the means. The means to worship God is to be aware that He alone is the one who is taking care of my needs. Do I need to ask God to provide me with air and water and everything? No. He is giving it anyway. I need to remember that He is the one who is giving me this. Why? Because my heart, my soul crave that. Because my heart and my soul, if I don't know the true source, there is an innate inner anxiety, a fear of what will happen tomorrow. It's like you have a steady income, so you're relaxed, and you don't have a steady income. Every day you go and see if you can find something to eat. Very stressful, full of anxiety. What will happen again today? Like people in times of wars or famine or earthquakes or in times of calamity. So when we know God as the source of everything, it's like having that secured income. And so I need to remind myself, we ask you for help. But if I'm not aware that He is the one who is helping me, I am the one who is losing that. Because even though I'm benefiting from the help, I don't know that there is this all-knowing, all-powerful, all-compassionate sustainer who is this generous host, and I am the guest of this host. Knowing that you are a guest is one thing. Thinking that you just happen to be, hiding in the basement of a house and afraid that they find you is another thing. The spiritual way of being is very different. So truly, I alone am God. There is no God but me. so worship me and be constant in prayer. Here is salat. So that you remember me. So you see, salat is to remember God. But of course, remember assumes that we know. So we are going to remember to the extent that we know, and that knowing is going to be grounded. It becomes our lived experience. It becomes something that brings joy and inner peace. Even in times of hardship, that inner peace will be established. So that's why we need this emphasis, because by default, when we are not following the path of the Qur'an, we are roaming around and worshipping other things without even realizing. And so worshipping God is to seek help from Him, means that we know that He alone can help us. Pray to Him, prostrate to Him. And prostration can be physical prostration, and physical prostration is very helpful. It nurtures that sense of surrender, of submission, of humility before God, that sense of awe. And it's also a prostration, metaphorical prostration. So it says the night, the day, the sun, the moon, and are only a few of His ayat, of His signs. Do not prostrate in worship to the sun or the moon. It may not be to the sun or the moon, it may be to something else. It could be just, we like this. Is one thing. Oh, this is a sign of God. It reminds us of His majesty, of His power, is totally different. But prostrate to God who created them. If it is truly Him that you worship. This is repeated a lot. O believers, bow down and prostrate yourself and worship your Rabb, and do good things so that you may succeed. So the doing good deeds, we are not told, it's not specified, but it is after prostrating to God and worshiping God, and then do good things. The good things, deeds, are mentioned in the Qur'an, in the Sharia, in the Qur'an. We are told what to do and what not to do. And it is given in the fitrah, to help the needy, kindness, all these kind of things is given in the fitrah. So everything is given, but instead of telling us do this, 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 the list will be unending, and also it may be different in different contexts for different people. It says do good things, but after Iman, after prostrating yourself to God, after worshipping God. So again, it may seem easy to understand, but it is the heart. This is speaking to the heart. That's why there is repetition. The heart needs repetition. It needs remembrance. Remember again and again. Allah is all-powerful again and again. He's the source of all my needs. Repeat again and again, together with reflection. Reflect. Is it true? Because the ego will say, where did you get this from? Have you seen God? It says in the Qur'an, it is God who sends the water down from the sky. We read and go. If we pause, is it really God who sends the water from the sky? Honesty. Remember, in order to start to reflect, we have to be honest. Honestly, if we go out and it's raining, I look around, I don't see God. I see water coming, and that's why science says water comes this, there is a cycle. Oh, yes. I am a scientific person. You know, science, do you think if I reject that, do you think I'm backward? You know, I'm open. What does it mean you are open? Why is Allah saying, it is me who sends the water? Ask, be honest. Truly? Is water coming on its own? Can water come on its own? Can this light just on its own come here? No, someone has set a whole system and someone is sending the electricity from outside, otherwise there will be nothing. But our reasoning is like a 3-year-old, and that's the reasoning we learn in science as well. Well, if it didn't come if there was no water, there would be no life. It didn't come, there would be no this. If there is no bulb, then the same reasoning, there will be no light. Is it true? Therefore, the bulb makes it. No. Therefore, the bulb is part of the system. That's all. That reasoning it's not rational and it's not reasonable. It's only we swallow it because we never question it. And in the Qur'an, we are taught to question everything. When it says it is God who sends, it says go and check. Is it coming on its own? Can it come on its own? No way. It has no intelligence, no power, nothing. How can it know how to go up, how to go down? Someone is doing everything here. So the more we pay attention, the more we get closer to God. We get to know God through reading the signs in the creation. Yes.
I just wanted to share this week I came across a piece from Maulana Rumi, and that 3-year-old reasoning, getting stuck in the seeming causes. He says people get stuck in the causes. It's like being in front of a veil, he says, a curtain, and there's a voice coming. Somebody behind the curtain is talking, but you think the veil is talking. You know, that's as
Yeah.
But it's coming from here, yes.
Imam Nursi says it's like the door. Imagine like the kitchen. For a child, the kitchen door here, kitchens don't have doors, but in other parts of the world they have doors. So the kitchen door opens and all this food is coming, and then assumes that the door opens, the food comes. So the kitchen must be doing it, or the door must be doing it. That's how it looks. But that's how we function like small kids when we do not question what's going on. And when we don't realize that for one thing to happen, to be, to exist, everything has to be in that way, because they are all interconnected. So we need to remember, to reflect, and remember often and contemplate, so that the heart will start being filled with the experience of these realities. And so it will foster a deeper awareness, an insight, a satisfaction with Tawheed, with the fact that everything is coming from one, and we start realizing that they are actually all speaking about God, glorifying God. We've been through this before. And so the horizontal delusional relationship starts being cut off. And we start living and acting in the name of God, Bismillah. So when we say Bismillah, it will remind us of that way of being. And that way of being is pleasing to God. Remember, shirk is the worst sin. Shirk is the opposite of Tawheed. Shirk is when we imagine things to be happening on their own. When we do not experience the Shahada, that divine power, divine compassion is at work around us. When we don't see the Ubudiyah, the lordship and sustainership of Allah. When we don't see that, it means without realizing, we're not claiming it, we're not articulating it, but that's how it feels, that things are just happening, that's without realizing being inclined towards the shirky way of perceiving things. So this way of being is the way of being as a worshipper. We become worshippers, abd.
And this happens most of the time when we don't deny the existence of God. We do accept that there's a God, and then there are some other sources of
Sure. That's why in the Quran it says besides God.
besides God. Yeah.
Because most people do not deny the existence of God.
Very stupid to deny. They know
Yeah.
that.
So worshipping God alone means no shirk. It says worship God وَلَا تُشْرِكُ بِهِ. So in Arabic it's like worship is a verb. Committing shirk is also a verb. Join nothing with him. Because we don't deny God, shirk that is not denying God, but seeing other things as having some sort of power. And at the top of the pyramid is myself. I see myself as having some kind of power and control and everything. However eagerly you may want them to, most people will not believe. And we are told, and there are many signs in the heavens and the earth that they is people, general, they pass by and give no heed to. Well, sounds familiar.
Speaking to the Quraysh. Just to give you some.
So it makes sense that it's speaking about us. So many signs that we don't pay heed because we are even first, if we are aware, we may not even be aware that we are supposed to be reading the signs. Iqra, the first revelation. And even if we are aware, we still need to learn to read actually the signs. And when we learn to read the signs, we need to apply it consistently. So this application, we may forget to apply it. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Is this the class for calligraphy?
No, it's in the other building.
Oh, okay. Do you know which other building is that this
It's
way?
not the restaurant, it's the first building after Hamal.
Oh, okay.
It's the guest house building.
The guest house?
Yeah.
Oh, that's that way.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So most of them will only believe in God while being mushrik, while also joining others with him. This is who they are. They have not tried to become muwahhid, to become conscious worshippers of God. And we are told God does not forgive the joining of partners with him, does not forgive shirk. Anything less than that, he forgives to whomever he wills. But anyone who joins partners with God, or anyone who commits shirk, has concocted a tremendous sin. And this is repeated that it is a tremendous sin. It is ظلم عظيم in Surah Luqman. It's a great wrongdoing, but it's also the only sin that is not forgiven. Because when there is shirk, there is a disconnect with God, with the source of rahmah, the source of everything. So this is important to keep in mind, because what is pleasing to God is to be away from shirk. It means to consciously strive to worship him alone. And this is possible to the extent that we know him with his beautiful names as it is displayed in his creation. And this needs reflection, as we learn in the Qur'an, contemplate, to internalize and act accordingly. Act in the name of God, Bismillah, and live accordingly. We are told how to live, but to perfect that so it becomes smooth, we need that inner way of being abd, of being conscious worshippers. And so the ayah that was at the beginning on the first slide was وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So this is the famous ayah where we are told that I created jinn and humankind and humans only for the purpose of worshiping me. Only to worship me. When you read this, what do you feel?
I feel like maybe we should have stayed there.
You should have.
Stayed where? In the heavens, not here. I mean, God, definitely God knows this. It's a bit distracting here. With the life and the kids and the work.
I agree, 100%.
So maybe this is the correct
School environment for us.
He knows best. Right?
But if he sent us here, it means this is where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So when you read that our life purpose is only to worship God, sometimes it creates confusion because I've seen people saying like, I can't be fasting and praying
All the time.
all the time, 24/7. Like I have my life, I have my dreams, I have my desires, I have my goals, I have my career. Does it feel that way?
Initially, the image it conjures up is someone like, spending all their time doing salah, reading the Quran, like being in a cave or like,
Doing dhikr,
Or something.
doing dhikr, remembering God.
sleeping very little. Because it's, just thinking of ritual worship. I guess that's the first thing that comes.
Yeah.
I've heard that if you make the intention of doing anything as an act of worship, it counts as worship. So like, if someone were to pursue a career, but then they're doing it to make it halal, make it also ibadah, that be counted as worship?
So how does that work?
Because you're doing it with Allah's ibadah like at the forefront of your mind. That's the main reason you're doing it. It might be to provide for family or whatever, but you're doing it because that is their haqq upon you. I don't know what's that.
So there is an intention. There is an intention. And usually people say, okay, you can't be doing that all the time. So it is talking about intending to do something that pleases God. So seeking the pleasure of God. But here there are assumptions. It is, we know God and we know what pleases Him. Right?
Yep.
But it's good. It's already going, the intention is something inside. So the worship here, there is a deed, an action, and there is the intention of the doer, of the worshipper. The person has to be in the intention to be worshiping God. So this, if I don't know God and I intend to please Him, there is still, it's a seed, because my intention is to please God. But if the whole Qur'an is here, it took the Prophet ﷺ 23 years to receive the message, and I'm not making any effort to know what's there. And we talked about the Qur'an being like a map of how to live our life, and it is not part of my first focus. I live without map, but I still say that my intention is to please God. It's much better than not, but it's not enough. We need more. This intention needs to be more sincere. So I need to know God, as we said, so that I know that I'm worshiping Him and so that I will get to be more familiar with what pleases God. And since God dislikes the most shirk, what pleases him most is full surrender, full surrendering everything to him. The more we surrender to him, the more we know God with his beautiful names, 100%. And that's represented in the prostration. When I'm in prostration, I am saying I am zero. I am only receiving. I do not create. I'm not the source of anything. If I am not the source of anything, then nothing can be the source of anything. You are 100% the source only to the extent that I am zero. If I'm a little bit 1%, then it feels like he's 99, and Allah does not accept that.
And to connect to something that you shared before in the seminar, connecting to the story of Adam alayhi salam, with this when Allah brought up in the Quran, that's exactly the question, right? When Allah is about to create the human being, I'm about to put some Khalifa on earth, the angels are like, we worship you, we praise you, like, and then they also have this part about he's going to shed blood, why would you create him? But even if we set that aside for now, and Allah says, I know what you don't know, and then the next scene is God teaches Adam all the names. So all the names of God, for them, as you had said before, for them to be more accessible to us as human beings, we have to go through the pain of being a mother. If you have that.
The worst one.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things, but so you have to, or working for our livelihood, or trying to clean the kitchen.
And
We
have the
took a lot of-
connection that is
Yeah, to
required
see-
there. Yeah.
yeah,
I have
to
to
see-
review mechanical drawings
Yeah,
tomorrow.
architecture.
Yeah, be about doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I
In-
challenge you.
Intellectually,
To appreciate
intellectually, we know that there is nothing worldly, because everything is connected to the source of everything. Intellectually, we know that.
Yeah, and the more we, I mean, it's not very clear intellectually, even for many forget. But going into it is saying, I am right now desiring to finish. Desiring to finish this drawing, and I am through me. As I am doing this, I get to reflect on the name designer, the name wise, and I realize that making something artistic requires a lot of skill. I get to appreciate that. I mean,
Art is like God's stamp on the world that fell. There has to be a designer. I can't accept.
There are so many steps. My being able to see and understand what I see is already a miracle.
Yeah.
If we take it for granted, before we take just a little pause, few seconds each time when we are starting to work, we say Bismillah, Bismillah, and then you say Subhanallah. Who is making me? Like, I look at something and sometimes you say, oh, who is going to do this? And then you see and you get the solution. And you understand and you say, who is making me understand? Who is making me make sense of this? Even not a drawing, like even writing, or all these things, signs, but lo and behold, they make sense. Subhanallah. This is beyond this. They are all things that we take for granted, and that in the Quran we are told are signs, ayat. They are miracles of power, and we are called on reflecting on them and not taking anything for granted. So miracles are not special miracles as we understand. Everything that we take as ordinary is actually extraordinary. The fact that the eye sees and somehow the brain understands is a miracle. So that's why in the Quran we are told about the night and the day, things that we take for granted. But in fact, how does it? And the more you learn how the night and day come to be, the more it is fascinating. And you say, let's go to sajda, prostration, huge, the awe before the majesty and the power and the love and the compassion and the art in the creation as well. So as long as we learned to read the signs and we have made the intention to renew this reading with the signs, there are two things. One is the intention, the conscious choice to surrender, the conscious choice to accept the reality. This needs to be renewed. Then it becomes easier to actually be a student of the Qur'an, to do the work, because it's not a burden anymore. It's actually a burden on the ego, but a joy for the heart and the soul. That's what the soul, the human, the ruh is longing for. We get closer and closer to God. We get to know Him. We see the beautiful names everywhere, wherever we turn, as we're told in the Qur'an. So the two-step is one, conscious surrendering, conscious, the choice to submit and accept the reality, make peace with it. Then it becomes easy to remember. Why do we keep forgetting? And it's so difficult to implement anything because we are not renewing our niyyah, our intention to surrender. So it becomes like the ego feels like, you are disturbing my little rububiyyah. I want to always be the one in charge. I want to remain in my little bubble of conceit, and illusion and delusion. And
Even folding laundry, I say even because it's something I always feel like it's taking up my time and I always push it. After the weekly halakha this week, I had actually some spiritual experience folding. I said, look, because sometimes I did laundry.
I love folding laundry.
Really?
I'm looking forward to it.
Really? So I'm getting there after so many halakha because I put it and it stays there like a day, two. So I said, look, this laundry doesn't fold itself. Even the laundry doesn't fold it. And look, you eat and every food particle goes where it needs to go, gets digested. And like there's immense activity just inside your body, or like around, like when you throw things. I sometimes throw some things in the backyard, and then it gets processed, and then it becomes, hopefully compost, and then things like. I'm like, there's a constant, but in the house. You put the laundry bucket there, it doesn't fold itself. I was like, isn't it beautiful? As you're folding, you're recognizing that you're part of this order, and you're realizing
there is cleaning everywhere outside.
If
It's
you
been
don't
cleaned.
do that or see that laundry pile up, or not pile up. In the process of folding, I can remember the al-munazzam, al-hakim, al-mudabbir, the one who.
I'm not quite there with the laundry yet. Maybe other things.
So worship, there is the word ibadah, which is literally worship. So the acts of prescribed ibadah, for instance, fasting, the 5 daily prayers, the salat, the charity, and zakat, and we can add acts of kindness and so on. They are there prescribed for us to establish, to make our life revolve around the divine. So they are reminders all the time, so that we are always drawn back to that you are here to worship. That's already given. In between is how we live in conscious abd, conscious worshippers. So that intention and that state of being abd, because the intention on its own is not enough. The intention is what sets us to do the work. Once we do the work and we start living as conscious worshippers, that is Ubudiyah. Ubudiyah is the spirit of worship, worshipfulness, being a conscious worshipper. So it is the spirit of ibadah. Ubudiyah is the spirit of the ibadah. Ibadah is like the vessel for ubudiyah, and they work together. We need one, we need both. We need an act of kindness, ibadah, an act of worship, is an act of worship performed by a worshipper. If someone does not believe in God and comes then, says, I want a spiritual experience, and is standing with us performing the salat, and he does not even recognize the existence of God, for him that is not ibadah. That's just maybe because it is divinely prescribed. There must be other emotional, spiritual, lots of benefits in it, but it still lacks the core of ibadah, because the one doing it is not doing it with the spirit of abd. He is not prostrating before the object of worship, before God. So we need both. So for instance, if we talked about fasting, well, it was fasting in the context of Ramadan being the month of the Qur'an, and how fasting helped with that. And we saw how fasting, Ramadan and the month of fasting, is a time of abundance of joy and inner peace and presence with the divine for the heart and the ruh when it's done with ubudiyah. But if the ubudiyah is lacking, it looks like it's only abstinence, a lack of something. You are not eating, you are not drinking, you are not. But with the spirit of ubudiyah, then the body is not eating, and the heart and the soul are feasting. They're remembering the provider, for instance. So from the perspective of ubudiyah, there is no division between my life and the prayer time, religious activity and worldly activity. Because when I am a conscious abd, performing conscious shahada, then that spirit of ubudiyah, whatever I do consciously, is transformed into ibadah. And the prescribed prayers, the prescribed ibadat, worship, are there to nurture more that spirit of ubudiyah. Does it make sense? So everything becomes a means to remember God, to know Him better, to know Him more with His beautiful names, to thank Him, to praise Him, to get closer to Him. And that's what ibadah is. So see here, whenever we are told here in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, give those who believe and do good deeds. Again, the good deeds are not specified, but what is specified is that the doer is a believer. They believe that they will have gardens graced with flowing streams. Jannah. If you are a believer, you believe and do good deeds. And this formula is repeated. Look, I had to write them down because there may be more. I may have missed some. Except those who believe and do good deeds and remember God unceasingly and defend themselves after they've been wronged, the evildoers will find out what they will return to. So, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ is repeated again and again in the Qur'an. Subhanallah, Iman has to come first, and Iman is the result of knowing God. I don't increase my Iman myself. I do the work, Allah gives us Iman. And the work is to know God through reading His ayat in the Qur'an and therefore in the creation, because the Qur'an is always referring us back to the creation. Let me stay here. So again, there is the intention. The intention looks to the doer. He has to have iman. The more iman, the more conscious iman, the more what he does becomes a good deed. Something that makes him closer to God and something that is pleasing to God. So for instance, the believer knows that God is the helper and the provider. We've already seen it as Isra was sharing. At home, you have to do all the work every day. If you, 1 week, you slack, it's a mess. But you look around, outside, it's always vibrant, always clean, always fresh. Someone is doing something without us realizing. So he is the helper, he is the provider. We've seen it in our life, in the life of the people around us, in nature, all around. And this is an example that I gave before as well, because it's easy to understand. At least that's how I feel. I see someone who is in need, and I help. Let's say, to make it easy, I give some money. Some money or some food, doesn't matter. You see someone hungry and you give food. I can help. I say, I am helping. I am giving my food, sharing my food, and I hope Allah will reward me with paradise. No, it's still good. It's better than someone who doesn't care, right? But is this all from what we learned through these passages from the Qur'an?
Because we're not the one that's actually giving, like, it's not coming from us anyway.
It said from what we, and they give from what we give them. This is repeated in the Qur'an. Always, you give from what you are given. So the one who is more familiar with the guidance of the Qur'an will remember, it seems like it's my food. I worked for it, I cooked it, I went. But if you are a gardener or a farmer, you know that the food, you just throw the seed and you wait for it to grow. You put it on the fire. If you forget it, the fire will burn it. So it's not the fire that's making it sweet and tasty and delicious. A miracle is happening. I'm always amazed at food. You put, like, you bake or just heat, and batter becomes a fragrant cake. Subhanallah, what's going on here? Someone is making something. Subhanallah, it can't be, the oven cannot be doing it. Heat cannot be doing this. So it is time, if it feels like it's my food, it says, but Allah says, from what I gave you, I pause, honesty. I pause and reflect as I'm taught, and I realize that it's all given to me. So actually, when I'm giving and I'm saying I'm giving from what you gave me, I am giving, but it is now an opportunity, a time to acknowledge that I'm given. That Allah is the giver of the blessings. So as I'm giving, I'm saying, you are the one who gave me this, and I'm sharing it. And the next step is, I'm not sharing, I'm made to share. The compassion that fills me when I see someone who is needy, the urge to help is not from me. I find it in me. If I learned to practice conscious shahada, then I will watch myself and be amazed at myself. Suddenly, I was not feeling in the mood of helping or feeling compassionate. maybe I had some problems or something, and then suddenly I see someone in need, and I'm filled with compassion, and I'm made to want to help. I witness myself, this is shahada, and I say, La ilaha illallah. There is no helper except him. There is no compassionate except him. And I know because right now I am witnessing myself being filled with compassion and with the need to help. And so not only the food is not mine, the compassion is not mine, the whole thing becomes an experience of conscious shahada, of experiencing the sweetness of the names of God coming through me, and the good news of akhirah, because the names of God are eternal. And so tomorrow I may be the one hungry. Allah is the helper. He will send me someone. After life, after death, I don't know what will happen to me. He is the merciful, compassionate. He will take care of me. Wherever I am, in this life, in the next, He is the all-compassionate. There is the sweetness of the names of God, tasting the names of God, and acting in His name. Now I say Bismillah, not in my name. I say Bismillah with my tongue, but I am a very good person. I gave all this, and I hope Allah will reward me. Definitely Allah will reward, because there is an intention. But what we are taught in the Qur'an is more, because we need to let go. La ilaha. You are not an ilah there. You are not the helper. You are not the, He is. And the more we witness Him and we taste His names, the more it is pleasing to God, and we feel the joy feeling, living in the presence of God with ihsan. And our iman, our certainty increases, بحق اليقين, with the certainty of experiencing it, of living it. So this is Ubudiyah. So now there is shahada in practice, there is joy, and in illallah being revealed to me, and there is hamd, there is shukr, there's praising and thankfulness and reverence. This is worship. Then my act of giving Bismillah, not only saying but giving in the name of God, becomes an act of worship. I am a worshipper. That spirit is the spirit of Ubudiyah that we learn in the Qur'an. That's why we said there are degrees, and all degrees are good. That's the beauty about Islam, is even the minimum is still beautiful, but there is more beautiful and more beautiful, inshallah. So now we understand why it's more pleasing to God. There is no shirk. I'm not, when I am saying that I'm giving my food, I'm not intending to lie. It's just that I'm not aware. That's why being aware is very important. Being unaware, in the Qur'an we are told, the ghafilun, the unaware, are like cattle. And we are not supposed to be unaware. We are supposed to be aware. There can't be iman without awareness, without consciously worshipping God. So it's a path, there are degrees, but as long as we are walking the path and not staying stagnant always in the same. So in the beginning, there is a shirky element. The food seems to be mine. In the second degree, I am the helper. That's how it feels. Until I realize that no, everything is from Him, and that is the most pleasing to God, because that's the furthest away from shirk. And it is beautiful in itself, and it is what the human ruh, the spirit, longs for. It's not like God needs it. We need it. I need it.
think that you own it. No, but you're actually just returning it back to the sender, and it just makes me think of inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Like nothing is yours. Nothing is yours. It's everything is given.
From one aspect, you are returning, but the other aspect, the message that's in there is that you are safe. Everything is being taken care of. That's what the Ruh feels at peace. Someone is taking care of everything. Because if it's me who is doing it, then I can't take care of all the people. When I hear about people I can't reach, I feel helpless. And what about if tomorrow I am in that situation? How about after death? I don't know what will happen. I'm dreading it, helping and dreading. But the more we know God, the more we surrender and we trust Him. Because now we are sure that He's the helper, He's all compassionate. So less shirk, more tawheed, and more purification of the ego. The ego that was thinking that it's all me and mine, start realizing it's not about me and mine, it's about my Rabb, who is taking care of me. And everything becomes about my Rabb and knowing Him and worshiping Him. So it's awakening to the illusions of self-sufficiency that we take for granted. And then we realize that all the faculties that we are given to worship God, to glorify God, just like the creation. Remember when we did reading the ayats? Everything is glorifying God. We are told again and again in the Qur'an, they are worshiping God. They are making salat. They are performing salat, we are told. We start glorifying God with them. So we are not distracted, because what used to distract us is actually the teacher, the one who is showing the way. They are the signs, they are the messengers. And normally we think they are distracting us. Remember, Sibel? We should stay in paradise. No, everything around us is actually showing us the way. Everything is like you come to a new airport, they are waiting for you and you see signs. Or you are in a treasure hunt and there are signs everywhere to lead you to the treasure. So everything is actually not here to distract us. It's the opposite. They're here to teach us how to live shahada, how to experience the beautiful names of God, how to glorify God, how to make tasbih. So here in this Surah Al-Shams, we told by the human self and how it has been made perfect and how it is inspired with moral failings as well as with God consciousness. He succeeds, he who purifies it, and he fails, he who corrupts it. When we are not purifying, by default, we are adding dirt onto it. More illusions, more delusions, more false beliefs. So here, everything becomes a means to read the signs, to know God, to fulfill their purpose of worshiping God, knowing God or worshiping God. So Imam Nursi rahimahullah, he says, everything, all our faculties start worshiping God when we start living with Ubudiyah, conscious Ubudiyah. For instance, he gives many examples, but like easy examples. If the seeing eye, which is a window through which the spirit looks onto the world, is employed on behalf of the ego, which we do most of the time, then it will gaze on transient and impermanent beauties and sceneries and sink to the level of being a servant of the ego. Because we live for our desires. I want to travel, to go and see beautiful things, because just to satisfy my desire. And this desire, I have not learned how to connect it with the Creator. In contrast, if the eye is employed in the name of the Creator, Bismillah, our capacity to see will rise to the rank of contemplator of the cosmos. It's not just looking, it's contemplating. MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, Ya Jameel, oh beautiful one, oh who creates with so different colors and shapes. And we are at awe, looking and feasting. And the ruh is feasting, and the heart feels in the presence of the divine. Starts tasting like Jannah before and smelling Jannah before even going there. So our capacity to see will rise to the rank of contemplator of the cosmos, a witness to the miracles of divine art. They are miracles. And this is in the 6th word, where he's commenting on this ayah in Surah At-Tawbah. Truly, God has purchased from the believers themselves and their possessions that paradise might be theirs. And the tongue, he said, if it is employed on behalf of the ego, it functions simply shoveling stuff in the stomach after very brief enjoyment. You work a lot, and then you put it in your mouth very quickly, it melts.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. You want to get more, and after a while, you can't even force yourself. It doesn't taste good anymore, and your stomach says stop. But if it is sold, the ayah says, sell yourself to God. If it is sold to the generous provider, the sense of taste, it's amazing how we can taste all kinds of tastes. If it were only to feed the body, we didn't need all this, like a special computer. And we remember the taste of things. Then the sense of taste will rise to the rank of a skilled and grateful overseer of the treasuries of divine compassion. That is, even though one's enjoyment of delicious food will be still brief and passing, it will enable the person to get the glimpse of an eternal delight, namely the undying mercy and the power of the generous one. You start tasting the beautiful names. The tongue tastes that and reads the beautiful names in it. And then the soul starts tasting the beautiful names while eating. And so eating becomes pleasing to God, it becomes pleasing to the soul, it becomes an act of ibadah because it has been performed with the spirit of Ubudiyah. And he talks about the intellect as well. And I wanted to end with this ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, where we are told, content yourself in patience with those who pray to their Rabb morning and evening. It means constantly. Day in, day out. It means all the time. So stay, wastabir nafsaka, stay, even like persist in staying, make an effort in staying with those who pray to their Rabb morning and evening, seeking His approval. These people are seeking Allah's approval. And do not let your eyes turn away from them, because it's of course metaphorical, but it means do not get distracted, because it's easy to get distracted. So we need to find people who are always remembering God, and remind each other as well, and help each other. Do not let your eyes turn away from them out of the desire for the attractions of the worldly life. What is the worldly life? Anything that calls me to forget about God. Do not yield to those whose hearts we have made heedless to our remembrance. So it means remember, remember, remember. Learn and remember. Because if I learn something and I don't keep remembering, it's not going to sink in. Those who follow their own desires, those whose ways are unbridled. And we know those who follow their own desires, we are told those who have taken their own desires as their God. If we are not following the will of God, submitting to the will of God, and I may say my intention is that my career is for the sake of God, but inside, I only know if it is truly for the sake of God. Do I have an explanation? How is it for the sake? Or is it my own desire? People will say, I feel fulfilled, I am going to make money, whatever the thing. Everyone knows in themselves. And we are supposed to be honest and keep renewing our intention to surrender and submit to the will of God, and then do what it takes to actually live that reality. If we don't keep renewing the first step, the second step will be difficult. It will be easy to get distracted. If we keep renewing the first step, the second step becomes easier and easier and more joyful. And then it becomes our way of life, which is what the Qur'an is teaching us, inshallah. Living in the presence of the divine with Iman and Islam and Ihsan, and smelling and feeling and tasting Jannah before the beautiful names of God, before even getting there. That's why in the Qur'an there is an emphasis on having certainty of akhirah. How can I have certainty before I go there, before dying? Well, after dying it will be too late. There is a way taught in the Qur'an to have certainty of akhirah here and now. And that's what the ruh and the heart are longing for. Wherever you turn, you see the names of God. Alhamdulillah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين نستغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. If you have any question or anything.